The humming of the server room was the only heartbeat left in the building at 8 p.m. Elena Rossi sat in the ergonomic chair of the HR suite, her face washed in the pale, sickly blue of a dual-monitor setup. She wasn't looking at a resume or a performance review. She was looking at a single Excel file. In the corporate world, data is supposed to be the new oil, but this specific file was nitroglycerin. She didn't intend to pull the pin. She was just tired, 16 hours into a compensation alignment project for a mid-sized fintech firm called NexaStream. Her finger hovered over the mouse. She meant to drag the file into the secure_vault folder. But a micro tremor in her hand, a glitch in the interface, or perhaps a subconscious scream for justice changed the trajectory of the cursor. The file didn't go to the vault, it landed in the general_public folder of the company's internal Slack, a folder accessible to all 412 employees, developers, sales reps, janitorial staff, and the C-suite. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the first seen by 1 icon appeared, then seen by 12, then seen by 85. Elena watched as the download count ticked up like a countdown to an explosion. She tried to delete it, but the permissions error mocked her. The administrator rights had been revoked 10 minutes earlier during a system update. She sat back, her hands trembling. The silence of the office wasn't peaceful anymore. It was the silence of a fuse burning toward a warehouse full of gunpowder. The war had started, and Elena was the first casualty. In the world of professional recruitment, we talk about corporate culture as if it's a living thing. We say it's about shared values and mission statements. But that's the brochure. In reality, a company is held together by one thing: the asymmetry of information. The company knows what you're worth. You only know what you've been told. NexaStream was a darling of the venture capital world. They had the unlimited PTO. They had the craft beer on tap. They had the We Are Family posters in the break room. Elena Rossi was the keeper of the family secrets. As an HR generalist, she saw the raw numbers. She saw the executive car allowances hidden in the marketing budget. She saw the signing bonuses for fresh grads that were higher than the base pay of 5-year veterans. For 2 years, Elena was the perfect soldier. She maintained the illusion. She sat through salary negotiation meetings and lied to talented engineers, telling them there was no budget for a 5% raise, while knowing the CEO had just approved a $60,000 retreat for the sales leadership. She felt safe because she was part of the inner circle. She thought her proximity to the secret made her essential. But secrecy is a heavy weight. It erodes the soul. Elena was exhausted by the hypocrisy. She was tired of the transparent culture that was as opaque as a lead wall. She lived in a constant state of cognitive dissonance, pretending the family was happy while she held the divorce papers in her desk drawer. She thought she could balance the books and keep her integrity. She was wrong. You can't touch pitch without being defiled. The disaster happened on a Tuesday. The global all-hands meeting had taken place that morning. The CEO, a charismatic 30-something named Marcus, had stood on a stage and told everyone that due to market headwinds, bonuses would be deferred until Q4. He asked for collective sacrifice. He talked about rowing the boat together. Elena was back at her desk by 6 p.m., tasked with finalize the rowing the boat spreadsheet. It was a comprehensive list of every salary, every bonus, every equity grant, and every special incentive in the company. It was the DNA of the firm's inequality. She saw that Marcus had taken a $400,000 retention grant the same week he deferred the bonuses. She saw that the head of product's relocation package included a $100,000 interest-free loan that would never be repaid. The anger wasn't a flare, it was a slow cooker. The mistake was born from fatigue and a deep-seated, perhaps unintentional desire to burn it all down. She went to move the file, titled Nexa_comp_full_master_private, into the encrypted drive, but the mouse felt slippery. The general Slack channel was open on her second screen. The file slipped. It fell. The upload complete notification was the loudest sound she had ever heard. It wasn't just a file. It was a manifesto. Within seconds, the master private file was the most read document in the history of the company. The asymmetry of information vanished in a single click. Every employee suddenly knew exactly how much less they were worth than the person sitting at the next desk. The chaos didn't start with a shout. It started with a hum, a digital hum of 400 people opening a CSV file at the same time. Then came the Slack messages, not in the general channel that was frozen by IT within minutes, but in the private channels, the huddle rooms, the encrypted WhatsApp groups. By 9 p.m., the family was at each other's throats. A senior developer discovered that the new diversity hire in her department was making $30,000 more for the same job. A sales lead found out that his junior associate was getting a higher commission split because they were the CEO's college roommate. The collective sacrifice that Marcus had preached that morning was revealed as a private profit scheme. Visceral is the only word for it. The heat in the building seemed to rise. Elena sat in the dark HR suite, watching the activity logs. She saw people downloading the file from their personal devices. She saw the unsubscribe alerts from the company newsletter. She saw the LinkedIn status updates of 40 key engineers changing to open to work in real time. At 10 p.m., Marcus called. He didn't ask how she was. He didn't ask if it was an accident. He screamed. It was a raw, primal sound of a man who realized his kingdom was built on sand. "Elena, what have you done?" She didn't answer. She hung up. She watched the private channels leak onto Twitter. She watched the industry blogs pick up the story. By midnight, the internal salary data of NexaStream was trending. The craft beer was stale. The unlimited PTO was a joke. The family was a lynch mob. The next morning, the office was a ghost town. Not because of a holiday, but because of a strike. The engineering team refused to log in. The sales team was on the phone with competitors. The HR office was a fortress, surrounded by security guards who were also checking the spreadsheet to see if they were being underpaid. The verdict was a total evaporation of brand equity. Elena was fired, of course. Not just fired, but escorted out by 2 guards she had once interviewed. She was served with a lawsuit for breach of fiduciary duty and disclosure of trade secrets before she even reached her car. The company's legal team moved with a speed they never showed when processing employee benefits. But the lawsuit against Elena was the least of NexaStream's problems. The top talent exodus was a landslide. 70% of the engineering team quit within 48 hours. They didn't just leave, they left with the institutional knowledge. The Series C funding that was supposed to close that week was pulled by the investors. Why? Because the investors realized the company had no secret sauce. It only had a toxic culture that had been exposed to the light. NexaStream filed for bankruptcy 6 months later. The CEO, Marcus, tried to rebrand himself as a turnaround specialist, but his name was forever linked to the rowing the boat lie. He was toxic. He was unhireable at the executive level. Elena's life was decimated. The legal fees ate her savings. She became a pariah in the HR world. Who wants to hire a keeper of secrets who can't keep a secret? She ended up working as a freelance virtual assistant, her name a cautionary tale whispered in HR seminars. She won the war of transparency, but she lost her life in the explosion. Why did NexaStream die? When we perform the autopsy, we don't find a technical failure. We find a moral rot. The company didn't die because of a spreadsheet. It died because the spreadsheet told the truth. A company that relies on lies to maintain its margins is not a business, it's a con. Transparency didn't kill NexaStream. The reality that transparency revealed killed it. The psychology here is a phenomenon called relative deprivation. People can be happy with their pay until they see what their peer is making. Once the fairness of the system is disproven, the motivation for the work disappears. You can't ask for collective sacrifice when you are practicing individual greed. Elena Rossi wasn't a whistleblower by design. She was a whistleblower by exhaustion. She represents the breaking point of the corporate soldier, the person who is asked to carry the weight of the lie until their back snaps. Ego told the CEO he could lie forever. Inexperience told Elena she was safe in the HR fortress. But the data doesn't care about your ego. The data is cold. The data is objective. And once the data is free, the illusion is dead. The cause of death was hypocrisy. The autopsy report is clear. If you can't show your employees the master salary list without them quitting, you don't have a company. You have a slow motion disaster. Elena's click wasn't the disaster. It was just the alarm clock waking everyone up to the nightmare they were already living in. The lesson? If you're rowing the boat, make sure everyone has an oar. Because if they find out you're the only one with a motor, they'll let the boat sink. And they'll swim to the next one.